Welcome, everyone. My name is Kaya. I am from Mackin. Mackin puts on Storyteller Spotlight. We're so excited to have Nick Bruel with us here today for a read-aloud and a drawing demonstration and a Q&A. Our special thanks to Macmillan for helping us get this program set up. Like I said, we're going to use the Q&A for questions for Nick. So if you haven't found it yet, go down and you might have to click more and then you can find the Q&A and that's where we'll put the questions. Anything you put in the chat, I will also share with Nick, but I can only watch one thing at a time. So let's put the Q&A in the Q&A. If you're watching with young people and you share a photo on social media today, please tag us in it so that we can see how much fun all the young people are having in our event. And just a heads up for later this month and next month, if you want to share these around your school, we are having Avi join us on the 21st of January, and then we are having Jason Reynolds join us on February 4th. So make sure to go on mackin.com or look out for an email about those and get yourself signed up. Okay, now I'm so excited to introduce Nick Bruel. Nick is the author and illustrator of the New York Times bestseller Boing and the Bad Kitty books, among others. He's a freelance illustrator and cartoonist, and during his downtime, he collects Pez dispensers and grows tomatoes in his backyard. He lives in Tarrytown, New York, with his wife Carina and their lovely cat Esmerelda. One thing really quick before Nick comes on that I want to tell everyone is that Nick wants to give away a class visit for just one classroom after this event. So anybody that's here participating is entered into that drawing and we'll email you if you are the winner. So just make sure to look out for that. If you get an email from Mackin, that's what it could be. Okay, welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just to be clear, it's a virtual visit that I'll be conducting.
It's
That's
a virtual
all right.
visit.
Just I don't want people to expect me to be knocking on the door after this is over. But thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm so happy to be here with you. As you've all gathered by now, my name is Nick Bruel, and I have this amazing job where I get to write and illustrate books for kids like you. And perhaps the most amazing part of it is that I've been doing this for over 20 years now. Can you believe it? 2025 is going to be a pretty amazing year in so many regards. For instance, she didn't tell you, but Mackin, the company, is just celebrating its 20th anniversary. By coincidence, my wife and I just celebrated our 20th anniversary. And Kitty is celebrating her 20th anniversary. And if you're going to have a 20th anniversary, you have to have a party. So what I'm going to be reading to you from in a little bit is the newest Bad Kitty book, Bad Kitty Party Animal. But before I do that, I thought I'd show you a little bit about what can happen in 20 years. So I thought a little stroll down memory lane was in order. So this is a picture of the very first painting I ever did of Kitty. So this would be from like 20, more like 22, 23 years ago, right? And you can see that just a couple years later, this is the cover of the very first Bad Kitty book, the picture book, simply called Bad Kitty. And you can see she looks very much like how I imagined her in the very first painting, right? Black fur, yellow eyes, they're kind of small, red nose, big tuft of white fur on her chest. Now, let's do a compare and contrast, because this is the very first cover to the very first Bad Kitty book. This is what she looks like today in the newest Bad Kitty book, right? Black fur, yellow eyes, but they're a lot bigger these days, red nose. The tuft of white fur on her chest is a lot smaller than the first time. And this would go on even later. So here's what she looks like in the first Bad Kitty chapter book that came out just a few years later. Black fur, the eyes are bigger now and still yellow, nose is still red, the white fur on her chest has gotten a little smaller. I did not do this on purpose. I wasn't trying to make Kitty look different from year to year to year. This is kind of what happens when you're drawing and painting the same character for a long period of time. It just happens. She evolves all on her own. I mean, if you look at the first year of Charlie Brown and Snoopy, those characters look really different than what they would later on. Same thing with Garfield. Even if it's the same artist drawing the same character over and over again, what happens is that over time, changes happen. So I thought that would be an interesting thing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to read to you a little bit from Bad Kitty Party Animal. After that, I'm going to do an actual demonstration for you of what drawing Kitty is like. But first, here's a little segment from chapter 2 of Bad Kitty Party Animal. Up until now, Kitty has been at her worst because this party is not for Kitty, but for Puppy, and Kitty doesn't really know to handle it. Why are you being so awful today? Are you jealous of Puppy? You shouldn't be. You had your own birthday not that long ago. Remember? You had your own special breakfast and your own party and your own cake. Now it's Puppy's turn. Today is his day. Please apologize to Puppy for being so rude. And Kitty's apology goes like this. Kitty, that does it. Go to your room. Wait, sorry, you don't have a room. You're a cat. I sometimes forget that. But you know what I mean. I want you to go to your bed and stay there until the party. And when you get there, you need to make Puppy a nice card for his birthday. Then you need to make him a nice present for his birthday. If you don't know how to do those things, look it up on the computer. And then you need to dress nicely for Puppy's birthday party. Do you understand what you have to do, Kitty? I hope so. Because if you don't do these things, then you'll have no TV for a year. Gasp, says Kitty. She looks at that big present that's been waiting there, but it's a present for Puppy. We learned that in the first chapter. And she's thinking maybe it's a rhinoceros sandwich because that's the sort of thing Kitty would want. And if you even think about opening the Puppy's present, you'll have no TV for 2 years. Choke, says Kitty. She looks at that present. She's thinking about it, but she responds a way that Kitty does. The end to chapter 2 of Bad Kitty Party Animal. Well, now's the fun part, because I want to show you what it's like to draw Kitty, at least how I draw her today. But I also want to make it a little more interesting, because here's the thing. You guys are either at school or you're at home because it's a snow day. And thank you for all of you for joining me. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to just draw a kitty. I'm going to draw a kitty, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to show you the hardest part. I'm going to show you the thing that challenges me more than anything else each and every single time I have to draw this kitty. And that is giving her feelings, emotions. See, because I've got a problem. It's kind of a big problem. My problem is that I created a character who doesn't talk. She's a cat. But because she doesn't talk, she can't just tell us what she's thinking. She can't just tell us what she's feeling. The only way to know what Kitty is thinking or feeling is seeing the expressions on her face. That's my challenge, and I'm going to show you how I approach that challenge each and every single time. How, you ask? By switching back over to my handy-dandy fancy-schmancy document camera. See you in a moment. All right, so I've got some paper. I've got a marker. Let's draw Kitty. Now, when I'm drawing Kitty, I always start in the middle of her face with that part of the body called the elbow. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Let me review my anatomy. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose, nose, nose. That's her nose. I knew that. I wasn't paying attention. All right, so below her nose, I'm going to draw her mouth. All right, so far so good. Now above her nose, I'm going to draw these two circles. And these two circles, of course, are her gallbladder. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Let me review again. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes and eyes, eyes. Those are eyes. I knew that. Again, I wasn't paying attention. All right, moving on. Now above her eyes, I'm going to draw these four hairy deals. All right, next come her ears. Now, after years of exhaustive research, I have come to learn that all cats have 2 ears. So I always give Kitty 2 ears, if only for the sake of scientific authenticity. If you ever run across a cat that has more or less than 2 ears, medical attention might be necessary. All right, next come these whiskery deals, and this is what we do. We do a little bump like that, and then you go 3 times. 1, 2, 3. But you'll notice that of the 3, the one in the middle is a little longer than the other 2. And do the same thing on the other side. All right, here we go. Little bump, then 1, 2, 3. We're almost done. I'm going to wrap this up with her skinny neck, her shoulders, and there's that little tuft of white fur in her chest. And there's Kitty. Hi, Kitty. But I'm not really done yet. You see, because I call this blank-faced Kitty. She doesn't really have an expression, at least not yet. You know, you cannot look at this face and know for sure what she is thinking. You certainly cannot look at this face and know for sure what she is feeling. That is about to change. Because with a single stroke of this marker, I'm going to turn this blank expressionless Kitty into annoyed Kitty. This is going to happen quickly, so pay attention. Here we go. No expression. Annoyed. In case you missed it the first time. No expression. Annoyed. No expression. Annoyed. See, the smallest detail can make a huge difference. It's knowing where to put that detail. That is my challenge. To further illustrate this point, literally, I'm going to do this 3 more times. But to save time, I'm not going to draw her whole, excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to do that one. That nose came out terribly. So because I'm such a perfectionist, I'm going to do that one more time. As I was saying, I'm not going to draw her whole head. I'm just going to draw the important components of her face. But I'm not going to bother with certain details like her ears, her hair, her liver, her elbow. But you may have noticed I'm already making those 2 circles, her eyes, a little bit bigger than I did that first time. So here I have 3 kitty faces. They're pretty much the same. They're pretty much identical, but obviously they're also incomplete. Something is missing. Well, by the time I'm finished, this first one is going to be surprised Kitty. This next one here is going to be crazy Kitty. This last one down here is going to be adorable Kitty. All right, first things first, surprise Kitty. Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2. That was easy, right? See, all I did was add 2 dots, but this is actually my favorite part. Check it out. All I did was add 2 dots, and look what happened to this face, because look at how much more alive this face suddenly became compared to the other two with just 2 dots. I never get tired of that. All right, next, crazy kitty. Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2. That's not so hard, right? Last but not least, adorable kitty. 1, 2. I had 3 kitty faces. They used to be the same. They used to be identical. By the time I was finished, the only difference between surprised, crazy, and adorable was where I put the dots in her eyes and how big I made them. Learning these details, the ones that make such a huge difference, took me a lot of time, a lot of practice, and it remains to this day the hardest part of my job when I have to draw this character. And on that note, I now open the floors to all the questions that you guys may have for me.
Okay, great. Let's start. I gotta start with Kaya in Arizona because that's my name too. Also, Mrs. Bell's fourth graders asked this question. What made you want to be an author? What inspired you to start writing books?
Oh, all right. Well, to really answer that question properly, I have to go all the way back in my Wayback Machine to back when I was in first grade. Because when I was in first grade, and I mean this sincerely, there was honestly nothing I loved to do more than to sit down at the big round table with a big blank sheet of paper and a pencil, pen, crayon, whatever I got my little hands on, and start writing and drawing stories. I just loved doing that. And so that's what I did. I was writing and drawing stories all through first grade, and then all through second, third, fourth grades. I remember being in fifth grade, and I wrote a whole series of stories called The Adventures of the Invisible Family. The great thing about writing and illustrating a whole series of stories called The Adventures of the Invisible Family is that, as it turns out, an invisible family is very easy to draw. Regardless, I kept writing and drawing these stories all through sixth grade, all through middle school, all through high school, college, and all those years since. I've been writing and drawing stories all my life. It just so happens that I love writing and drawing stories as much now as I did when I was in first grade. It's a great question. Thank you for asking it.
Malaya from Illinois asked, is Bad Kitty representing a bad kitty that you know?
Oh, it's a very good question. Well, believe it or not, when I wrote the very first Bad Kitty book, the one, let's see if I can find that sheet, where the picture book Bad Kitty, I didn't have a cat at the time. It's true. But so she's not really based on any cats. Her personality is really not based on any one cat that I knew. But I will say that she's modeled physically after a cat I had when I was a little boy named Zuzu. The cat was named Zuzu, not me. Anyway, Zuzu was this little black cat. Even for a cat, she was kind of small. And she had this great design. She was all black, all over, from the tip of her ears to the tip of her tail, except for this elegant tuft of white fur on her chest. And I always thought it looked like she was wearing a piece of jewelry. So when I came up with the idea for the character and I wanted to figure out what she would look like, I thought of Zuzu. So Kitty as a personality is not based on any one cat, but she is physically modeled after Zuzu, a cat I had when I was very little.
Iris in Idaho and Brinley from Pennsylvania wonder, how long does it take to make one of your books? What's the writing process like?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So it takes me, and by the way, this is true for just both the chapter books and the picture books. It takes me anywhere from 6 to 9 months to write and illustrate because I do both, one of my books. I mean, just put this into perspective, right? Your school year began sometime around the beginning of September. It's going to end sometime around the beginning, middle of June. That's 9 months. The entire time you were in school this year, that's how long it can take me to write and illustrate just one of my books. I will say it takes me a little less, closer to 6 months nowadays, just because after doing this for about 2 decades now, I've gotten a little better. The process has become a little more streamlined for me, but still 6 months, that's half a year. It's a long time. So that's how committed I am to the books when I start writing and illustrating them. Excellent question. Thank you for that.
Emma Lynn from Iowa asked if cats are your favorite animal.
Oh, interesting. Um, I do love cats. It wasn't in my introduction, but we have a dog now, and I do love dogs. But years ago, there's a wonderful artist and writer named Eric Carle, most famous for creating The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And he's so big and so famous and so great that they have a museum named after him near Amherst, Massachusetts, called the Eric Carle Museum. And the Eric Carle Museum contacted me one day, and they said, Nick Bruel, we want to do a book that's going to be called What's Your Favorite Animal? And we want to give you 2 pages in the book. We're asking this of like 13, 14 other illustrators. What is your favorite animal? And I decided, I thought about it for a long time, that my favorite animal, that I would dedicate 2 pages to talking about, would be the octopus. They are amazing. If you ever want to fall down a pretty deep, fascinating YouTube wormhole, just do a search for octopus, and you're going to learn a lot about just how intelligent and smart they are and how much they can do with just no fingers or hands and living in an ocean. They are extraordinary. So it's hard for me to say that I have any one particular animal that I love more than any of the others, but boy, I love and I am fascinated by the octopus. Good question. Thank you for asking that.
There are so many Bad Kitty books. How do you come up with the subject for each new one?
Oh, really interesting question. And it's this one I'm grappling with right now because I have to begin writing and illustrating a new Bad Kitty book pretty soon. And I don't have a topic on hand just yet. So it's going to be book number 20, if you believe it. 20 is kind of the theme of this presentation, right? 20th anniversary of Kitty, of Mackin, and 20th chapter book to come out. One of the things that I do when I have to start a new book is ask myself probably the most important question that anyone who writes and illustrates books for children can ask, which is, what do kids care about? That's the question I've asked myself over and over and over and over again over the years. So kids care about birthdays, and that's led to Happy Birthday Bad Kitty, and of course Bad Kitty Party Animal. Kids care about babysitters. What kind of lowlife is mom and dad going to bring into the house to watch me while they're out having fun without me? That's what led to Bad Kitty versus Uncle Murray, also known as Bad Kitty versus the Babysitter. Bad Kitty School Days, Bad Kitty Camp Days, Bad Kitty Takes the Test. All of these books have been byproducts of my asking myself that really important question, what do kids care about? So that is what I'm going to be asking myself over and over again in the next coming days, weeks, and months as I prepare to make the next Bad Kitty book. It's a really good question because it's one that I'm pondering right now. So thank you for asking that.
There was actually a question about the Uncle Murray babysitter book being the same book. And why?
Why? Well, it wasn't my decision. The decision. So when starting about 4 or 5 years ago, my publisher decided on two things. One, they wanted all of the new Bad Kitty books, so starting with Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation, to be in color. And they also then decided, well, you know what, if we're going to do that, then we have to go back and have all of the older books be in color as well, which meant that I actually had to re-illustrate, redraw the line art on all of the original Bad Kitty chapter books. It took me about 4 or 5 years, but we just finished those. So when they decided to re-release Bad Kitty versus Uncle Murray in color, they were saying to themselves, you know, of all the Bad Kitty books, this one sells the least. And I couldn't tell you why that was the case, but they said, you know, maybe it's the title. So we've decided to change it to Bad Kitty versus the Babysitter. Now, I had trouble with that title. This is something they've been suggesting to me for a long time, and I've been pushing back for a long time because Uncle Murray's not really a babysitter because there's no baby in that particular book. He's maybe cat sitter, dog sitter, house sitter, but not the babysitter. Baby wouldn't come until the next book. But, you know, they convinced me. They talked me into it, and they said it really has to be Bad Kitty versus the Babysitter. And if we're going to make the title change, let's do it with the new color edition. I go, all right. So I chose it's the end product of their wanting to change the title for a very long time now, and my basically giving up on fighting them over it. That's the only story behind it. Thank you for asking that.
Fourth graders in Mrs. Teague's class in Wisconsin and also in Miss Abbott's class want to know if your kitty is bad.
Let me see. How do I put this? Well, now the introduction talks about Esmerelda, and actually Esme was a great cat, and she had her own way. But we don't have Esme any longer. But we do have two cats, and let me just put it this way. We have two cats named Rose and Noodles. We named Rose because she looks and smells nothing like a rose. We named Noodles Noodles because when we adopted him, our son picked him up and smelled him and said, he smells like chicken noodle soup. And Rose and Noodles, they get along insofar as two cats are able to get along with each other. They kind of put up with each other. They fight a lot, but they can sleep. They won't sleep in the same cat bed, but they will sleep in the same room, maybe even on the same sofa, but on either ends. And neither one of them are especially good because they do like to claw at things that they know for certain we don't want them to claw at. But neither one of them are especially bad in the sense that they both like to kind of cuddle up and be on either side of me and in their most peaceful moments. So they are not much inspiration for Bad Kitty books, but I'm thrilled to have them in my life.
Okay, here's our last question, and it's a two-parter.
All right.
Cash from Wisconsin wants to know what you like best about your job. And Aria in Colorado wants to know what the hardest part is.
Oh, okay. So that's actually two questions, and I do like them. My favorite part of the job is actually what I'm doing right now. I really genuinely do enjoy visiting schools and meeting with kids and answering questions that kids have, because it's a rare opportunity for me to understand what kids care about. Remember, I was talking about how that's so important for me to make my books. Well, one way I learned that is being around kids, and they're telling me, which they tell me sometimes with the questions that they ask. So, and it's not something, by the way, that authors of the quote unquote adult books get to do. I could visit schools every day if given the opportunity, and I learn a lot every time. So that's maybe my favorite part of it's not so much the writing the books, but talking about them and learning from kids. As for the hardest part, I think the hardest part may be actually sort of finding the time and sitting myself down and actually doing the the work of creating the story, because it can be frustrating. It doesn't, when you see a book, there's going to be the illusion that I wrote and illustrated that book all at once, because if I did my job right, then it comes out as a complete story that I just can formulate it all on its own, because that's the experience you're having as a reader. But really it took, as we explained, 6 to 9 months for me to create this illusion that you have a book that's fully realized in the one sitting. So the whole process of sometimes sitting down and not having the right idea and not knowing how to make Kitty, do what I want her to do, that can be very frustrating. I know that's a vague answer, but it's a good question. Thank you for that.
There were so many good questions, you guys. I could barely keep up. Thank you so much for putting them all in. I will take the whole Q&A and the whole chat, and I'll share it with Nick so he can see all your messages. If there's anything else you want to say to him, go over to the chat and add it now. Nick, any closing message for the kids?
Yeah, you know what I thought I would do, even though I can't see you guys. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a few short questions. The first is, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever written a book or a story of your own. Now raise your hand if it was fun writing that book or that story of your own. Now raise your hand if it was hard work, as I explained to you earlier, writing that book or that story of your own. What you've likely discovered when you look around the room and see all these hands going up is that something can be fun and hard work at the same time. And that's certainly what it's like for me. I get up every morning and I struggle with every breath down the stairs to my office, where I sit and I write and I illustrate these books for kids like you. And it is always hard work. It is sometimes even frustrating, but it's always really, really fun at the same time. So thank you for joining me and joining Mackin today. I really genuinely appreciate your taking the time out of your day.
Right. Thank you, Nick. I did see some ideas put in the chat for your next book, so you'll want to pay attention to those. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Kaya. Thanks, Mackin. Bye.